All
right, there we go. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Reads Romance. I'm here with the evil geniuses, just geniuses of the Duke I'd Like to F anthology. So why don't we take a quick second to have everyone introduce themselves and say, and that's it for right now. And then we're gonna do an icebreaker. So just, I don't know, follow my lead. We'll start with Adriana in the camo.
Hi, I'm Adriana Herrera.
All right. Who's next?
I'll go. I'm Simone.
Twizzler lady, you're next.
I'm Joanna Shupe.
Okay. You're in New Zealand. You're next.
Hi, I'm Nicola Davidson.
Okay. And finally, in the lovely stripes.
And I am Ava Leigh.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. So we are going to be talking with these lovely authors about their anthology tonight. And I have a game prepared for the middle. I think it's going to be funny. It's going to be easy, no pressure. And we're going to start off with an icebreaker question that actually has nothing to do with books or writing, that is just for fun. And we can go in any order that you would like. So the first question is, if you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would it be?
It's probably bad to say writing, isn't it?
I think for this particular audience, that would be yes, but I support you.
That would assume that you were writing every day, which that's ambitious.
Especially this time of year, right? Okay.
Oh, can I answer first?
Yes, please do.
Okay, because something just occurred to me, and legit, if I could do away with this, I would be super, super happy. In, these days where we're all locked in together all the time, the discussions about what is for dinner. If I never hear those words again, it's too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah.
So
even people who liked cooking before seem to now be in my corner, which is, this is terrible. Yeah. Okay. Who's next? Something you'd eliminate from your daily routine if you could.
I'll go next.
Okay.
And I have elementary school age kids. Well, I have one kiddo in middle school and one elementary age kiddo, and both of them are learning different things with fractions. So every day I have to relearn fractions and how to divide and multiply them to help them with their homework. And that's a low point of the day.
You're I didn't expect these to come back and bite me as an adult. Awesome.
Oh, and they do it all. I know that every old parent is they do math differently now, but it is different enough that I have to go on Khan Academy and okay, fractions.
That's funny. Okay, who's next?
I really want somebody to just fix my breakfast for me, because I just want, that's kind of what I really miss the most is in these times that we live in is just, I want to be able to just go somewhere and sit down and have somebody prepare my breakfast that I or my husband did not prepare, pour me a cup of coffee that I did not brew. I just kind of want that, and that way I can just sort of because when I'm lying in bed, I'm like, I know there's shit I have to do right now, and I don't want to do it. So that's kind of where I think I would be at.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adriana, were you, what would you like?
Yeah.
Well, I have my dog walking around right now, and I'm I would probably get not having to deal with my dog when she's antsy and wants to be play. If I had some automatic robot that could just throw a ball at my dog for an hour a day, that would be amazing.
I thought that's what children were for, but
oh, that's not mine.
All right, last but not least.
I would definitely eliminate cleaning. Any cleaning, just it would clean it. The house would clean itself, and washing would do itself. Dishes would do themselves.
Yeah,
it happened in the Jetsons. I feel
yes,
not that far away.
I would love a Jetsons type of life.
I think we all would, especially now. Yeah, I think for me, it's like the food thing. I'm just so tired of the same things. Like, I just feel like we eat the same things all the time. Right. So, I mean, I think that's it. Like, something different, but I go to the store and keep buying the same thing. So I guess that's on me. Okay. So before we get started, talking about your individual parts of the anthology, which I know people are going to want to hear about, one of the things, a question I think that people will be really interested in hearing about is how does an anthology get made, right? I mean, I know, Joanne, I've heard you talk about like sort of the inception of it, but how do you then, like, what are the steps? And so like everybody, I would love to have everybody take a turn and talk either about like kind of what you feel like was your part of it or how you got involved, or kind of like, you know, who does the back end business work? I mean, you know, because I do think people are really curious about how anthologies get made. How do you send them to the printer, or right? So I know there's like a lot of different things you could talk about, but I just think any part of the process that's like particularly interesting to you. I think we'll start with Joanna, only because I know that I think you're the one who thought of the idea for this, if I'm correct. And then we'll actually go in like reverse order from what you told me about the thing you want to give up. So we'll start with Nicola. So Joanna.
Yeah, I mean, I was in lockdown, and I mean, I did an anthology a couple years ago with Sarah McLean and Sophie Jordan and Tessa Dare, and it was How the Duke Stole Christmas, which is on sale right now. So that plug is done.
There you go. Well
put
done.
That aside.
Okay.
So that anthology was a lot of fun, and you know, it's been a couple years, so like my deadline brain could wrap my head around sliding in another story that's not on my Avon contract. And in lockdown, I really wanted to write something short and spicy, and for some reason, you know, a lot of the you see a lot of these daddy contemporary books right now, and in my head and one does. I just was thinking one day, it was like, I was trying to think of other D words, and then Duke came to me, and I was like, oh, well, surely somebody has written Duke I'd like to F. I mean, for sure. Like, that has to be a thing. Some kind of DILF story. And lo and behold, it didn't exist. So I asked a couple writer pals, like, do you think this is a terrible idea? Like, I'm thinking about like writing this story. And I reached out to Ava Leigh and kind of floated the idea of co-writing the story, like sort of how like Penelope Ward and Vi Keeland do on some of their stories, but like obviously a shorter format and like very spicy. And logistically, there were so many questions, and I think she and I were so busy that it was like, well, who writes what format do you write in? Do you take a part and I take a part? It just became like logistically kind of a nightmare. And so then I said, I feel like we're trying to make this more complicated than it needs to be. It should just be an anthology, and everybody should write their own short story. And I had already written like 15,000 words of what ended up to be my story, that I let her read, because we were going to write on it together. So then I said, we're making this too hard. Let's just do an anthology. And she said, great, I'm in. And then from there, I tried to think of writers that I knew could write really great, short, hot stories. And I had actually just read Adriana's proposal for her, the story that sold her upcoming Paris set Belle Epoque stories. And it was fantastic. So that made sense, because it's sort of like, she can write a great short story. It gave her an opportunity to sort of dip her toe into the historical waters. So, you know, I just thought like all of these women are amazing. And that's, you know, they're like the first names that sort of bubbled up when I was thinking about it.
I started to publicly share my daddy theory, but I'm going to wait until we hear these later. It's fine. Okay.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah, I'm going to put a pin in it. Okay. Nicola, how about you? How did you get involved in this? Or what's like a part of it that you could share with us?
Well, Joanna emailed me, and it was kind of like a, oh, interested in being an anthology. And then as soon as I saw it was going to be a Duke I'd like to I was just like, holy fuck, I'm in. Because that was so me, and I was so thrilled to be invited to be part of it, because brand wise that was 1,000% me. And then when I heard the other authors involved, I was just like, there are no downsides to this. This is just it's really wonderful to be part of an anthology where everyone writes hot, because quite often you can have anthologies and the heat level, what some people think of as being steamy can really vary, let's just say. So to know I was going to be an anthology with 4 other wonderful authors who all write hot, it was like, bring it on.
Yeah.
And then we stay in contact. We're in contact all the time, making decisions and discussing things, and even down to things like what language are we okay with, when it comes to sex scenes, but yeah, all those things, and it just came together just so well, and we're just thrilled with the result.
Awesome. Adriana, what about you? What's your, because this is the first, no, you've been in a couple different anthologies, right? So
yeah, I was just earlier this year, I did one called He's Come Undone, which which was not the same type, but it was like the idea that it was like a common theme for all stories, and it was like a smaller group of authors. That one was like with Olivia Dade, Kat Sebastian, Ruby Lang, and Emma Berry. So, I mean, yeah, like, I think I responded to Joanna like within 5 minutes of getting the email.
Like,
I
yes.
sent it, I read DILF, and then I was like, is this a question? Like, I literally was like, of course. So, and I am like a very A-type person. So I am like that. I just did this like Strength Finder course, and like, I am number 4 activator. It's just like the person at the meeting that's like, okay, so we've talked for 50 minutes, let's like designate tasks. So I'm like always like trying to be like, okay, I can like get in touch with the like cover person, and I can buy the photo, like the image. And so I love being part of teams, and so I'm always happy to like help coordinate. So that was kind of like a little bit of what I did with this one, like just help coordinate some of the stuff. But the one that's done a lot of the business stuff is Sierra.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so tell us about that then, because you've been in a million anthologies, I feel like.
Yeah, and so I did the Naughty Brits anthology earlier this year. And so with that one, I actually took on the role of just doing a lot of the back end, like publishing and like uploading and stuff. I have software, so I can do the formatting for, the print and the ebooks. I already have vendor accounts on all the platforms. So when this came around, it was like, well, I'm already doing it for one anthology, so it's not like I'm starting from scratch in terms of like knowing how to do bookkeeping and, keeping organized. So I did a lot of the sort of just nuts and bolts stuff of getting the anthology up. Which I feel like it came together really well. Like, it's one product, but when you're making the product, what you really see is it's 5 components. And so each story needs to go through dev editing, each story needs to go through copy edits, each story needs to be formatted individually as well as together. And so, it can be hard to coordinate 5 people at once to get everything, kind of together at the same time. But it really dovetailed perfectly and was really seamless.
Okay, Ava, what about you?
Well, I have to say that I am inordinately grateful, to Joanna for thinking of this bonkers concept, as it were, and then to Adriana and Sierra for handling so much of like the technical nuts and bolts about the cover and all of the aspects in terms of like the publishing and things like that, because I don't know, but I know nothing about it. Actually, I just published my first self-published work ever, So that was a big, like, because I had already been learning from what Sierra and Adriana had been doing, that has sort of assisted me in figuring out how to take care of my own stuff. And Nicola, like, I specifically want to thank you for also just being there with me in this process, because you know, you're amazing. Because I didn't want to like leave anybody out. Like, everybody's incredible here, and we all sort of came together to put this together. And we had a lot of chats and things like that to sort of figure this thing out. And I felt sometimes like a pinky toe, like I was just going to be like, oh, eventually I'm going to kind of fall off this limb, because I was just like, I just wanted to write about a hot younger dude. I don't know. So like all the technical stuff was like stuff that I couldn't do. So I really was grateful for having the expertise of so many individuals and like lending their voice and understanding as to what this process was like.
Well, and I think like that's the thing on the reader end. I mean, you know, we run the gamut. You guys run the gamut, right? Like Nicola, I think, is mostly self-published, right? And then Joanna, I think, you know, mostly is trade published. And so, you know, some of the others of you are kind of like half and half or a hybrid. And so I think as on the reader end, it's kind of amazing to think like you're all basically running your own business. Right. And so, you know, it's, I think, interesting for maybe people to hear about kind of how much work that really is, like what's really happening.
Well, I always, but even before I got into doing the self-publishing kind of thing, I had always sort of like the cliche about the romance author who's just kind of like drifting through life in like a marabou trimmed peignoir and has like no idea what life is like outside of her fantasy world. It's hilarious because I've never met a group of people more savvy about how to run a business than romance authors. And that's it. Like, I joined the RWA probably in the 90s, but I rejoined in like 2005. And since then, I've just been like I'm in awe of how incredibly savvy and intelligent all the individuals who were involved in as romance authors, like what that entails. So like that's always been something that's been a facet of the genre for me, is that not only are we creative, but we're also the marketers and
well, because no one's going to do it for you in romance, right? Like it's really like you have to be industrious, because
you do have to be industrious. There's no ivory tower. Like, I came from sort of like the quote unquote literary world, and like it was much more of an ivory tower kind of a thing where you're just sort of creating art and who knows what happens. And then, but this is like, no, we're going to get this done. And so it was great to see all of these people who are just like super focused on creating good product, connecting with their readers, but also running their business.
Right. So speaking of that, all of you also are like constantly producing other things. So I want to give everyone a chance to talk about either like their newest release or something that they have coming out soon, or, you know, or perhaps something that you're like working on that you're really excited. So, you know, now that this is like, you know, put to bed and everyone can buy it and have a piece of it, and it was on an Entertainment Weekly, woo-hoo, like what, you know, like
Joanna's
kind of
the queen of filth, by the way.
Yeah.
Queen of filth.
I mean, put it on a t-shirt, right?
Yes.
What are, you know, like what's, you know, kind of what are you doing? What's next for you, or what are you working on now? So Sierra, let's start with you.
Well, I just finished a quartet. It was a series, a contemporary series, and it's very erotic, it's poly, it's queer, but it's set on Dartmoor, like my story in Duke I'd Like to F. So if you liked the Gothic manor house full of secrets in my story in the anthology, then you might like the Thorn Chapel Quartet, because it's also a Gothic manor house with secrets.
Perfect. And that you just released a new, is it?
Yeah, so the last book just came out last week.
Tell us more.
So it's
okay.
Totally finished now. If you're the kind of person who likes to have a complete series that you can kind of binge all at once, it's totally done. And
Perfect.
No waiting, no more waiting.
No more waiting.
And it's so good.
Oh, it is so good.
So good.
Okay, Adriana, what about you? What are you working on? Like 800 things, but you know.
So many. I am working on my first category for Harlequin Desire. It's It's for a series called Zambrano Studios. It's a Dominican family that owns a telenovela empire in New York City. And the first one is called 1 Week to Claim It All. And it's the illegitimate daughter of the patriarch who comes back to claim her place at the helm of the TV studio. So that one's coming out in June of next year. So that's the next thing that's coming in that I'm working on right now.
Perfect. Nicola, what about you? What are you working on recently or have coming up soon?
My next release is the sequel to Scandalous Passions, the Highland Menage book that came out in May. The next one's coming out in mid-January, and it's going to be MMF, and we've got it's the scholarly laird and the dominant squire and the lady sword fighter. So it was quite a whiplash going from Regency England to medieval Scotland. In terms of, it's always a bit of a whiplash going because the language is quite different and a lot of the terms and the words are quite different. So that was a bit of a woo for my head. But that's going to be up for pre-order probably in the next week or so, and then coming out about mid-January.
Perfect. I feel like more medievals. I'm a fan. Amazing. Okay, Joanna, what about you?
The Heiress Hunt comes out March 9th.
Are those paper arcs?
They are. Would you like one?
Of course I would. I have a digital arc and I've been so busy I haven't been able to read it yet, which is real sad because you know I love your books. It's unreal.
Thank you. But this comes out March 9th. It's up for pre-order now. So it's basically The Bachelor set in Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay.
So.
All right. Ava?
Well, I had this very strange summer where I was working on the Duke I'd Like to F story, and while I was doing that, I was also writing a sweet holiday novella as Alexis Stanton, which just came out. It's called Operation Holiday Matchmaker, and that's my very first self-published title. And I was sort of piggybacking off the fact that I did have my Hallmark book by Alexis Stanton made into a TV movie, which is still kind of,
that's so awesome. Was that amazing?
It's really surreal. I'm kind of mystified by the whole process, especially because it all happened while I was just in quarantine. So it's like, theoretically this is happening and then it's on the screen and stuff like that. So that was really and that's been really fun, and it's like actually something that my parents have been willing to watch. So I was shocked by so
they're not Duke I'd like to F people, probably.
Probably not.
Duke I'd like to plow a field with, like, you know, something more.
I'd like to,
even that sounds a little dirty.
Yeah. A lot of furrows and things like that. And then in February, I don't have my arc with me right now, but in February I have the third and final book in the Union of the Rake series coming out, which is Waiting for a Scot Like You, which I think people have been looking forward to from a Cameron story. And right now I'm working on a new series for Avon. So I'm just, it's kind of crazy, but I'm enjoying it. My life is really weird because like I am basically doing exactly the same thing that I was doing a year ago, regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic out there. So
strange.
Kind of odd.
It's really weird.
Yeah. But
okay.
So yeah, that's just kind of what I've been up to.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna play a little game right now. I think it's gonna be fun. I don't know. You never know. I make up these games, you guys, and I never know if they're really gonna be fun. Okay, so and what this is called is I have to find present. Okay, so this is okay, the Duke I'd Like to. I'm gonna show you a picture of some famous dukes, and you're going to tell me what you would like to do with these dukes. That's how it works. Okay, so we're gonna start with a real softball. Okay, this is Duke Ellington. The Duke I'd Like to. Anyone?
Listen to?
Obviously, yes.
Revere.
Yeah, I mean, Duke Ellington is like a boss, right? I was trying to see if there were other Duke musicians, but he was really the only one. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna leave him by himself. Duke I'd Like to. Duke Ellington, if you're not familiar, he's amazing. Okay. All right, let's see. Oh, all right. Oh, anyone famous? Some famous Dukes here.
Is it the one on the left or the one on the right?
Yeah,
They are
this-
both Dukes, actually.
Yeah, right. So
That's true. Yes, they're Dukes, both of them. I looked it up. I had to make sure. I'm not really familiar with these things. So I was like, I think they're both Dukes, right? So anybody?
I have very different reactions to
Yes.
those two.
I know. Yeah. So is there something collectively, maybe, is the question.
I'd have to answer separately.
Okay, you can answer separately. I'll allow it. Go ahead, Adriana.
For Harry,
Mm.
Duke, I'd like to, sorry, Megan, friend. And then with William, maybe fight, possibly throat punch,
Yeah.
or banish. Duke, I'd like to vanish.
Yeah, right. Bonus points there for using an F word, but that is all right. Duke, I'd like to fight.
yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say slap. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I almost put their grandfather in here too, the Duke of Edinburgh. He seems like a real bad guy from what I understand, but I only really have watched a couple episodes of The Crown. I can't really speak to that. Okay.
For Harry, I think I would like to interview him.
Mm,
Like I really would love to he'd be fascinating, I think, to really, if he would be candid about like his
Yeah.
life and his memories and his,
yeah.
experiences and like his family and stuff. He'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay. All right. Anyone have strong feelings about Duke University? I almost put the lacrosse team up, but it felt like really mean,
Right.
so I didn't.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah. All right. Fair. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Is the only place
Thank
I
you.
could think of named Duke.
Fair enough.
Okay. Anybody? The Duke of Hazzard, famous 70s TV show.
I
Look
feel
at
like
this photo.
Daisy Duke and I would get along. I don't know anything about her personality, but just purely sexually,
Yeah,
I think
well,
I would like to take Daisy Duke home. I don't
it's
know if the boys can stay. I don't know anything about them.
I'd like to wean them off the Confederate tit there. But yes, Daisy Duke
Oh,
is
yeah,
super hot. Yeah.
I didn't even notice their car is called General Leigh.
It's super gross, everybody. This is the
Super gross.
1970s TV show that is like straight up like Confederate, pro.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
I like
But
her shorts though.
Daisy Duke. I mean, if you have shorts named after you, that's pretty great. Okay. Finally, Winston Duke.
Adriana, I'm gonna hand this to you, Adriana.
Well, everybody knows that I have a thing for thighs. And so
Bisexual.
Yes.
bisexual. I mean, honestly, he would definitely be a Duke I'd like to F.
I mean, it's kind of a ringer. I put there last for a reason, right?
I mean,
It's like not even right. Have you
no.
guys seen the new cover, like Laquette's new book, Jackson?
Yes.
Yes.
Has a
yeah.
handsome gentleman that has like a very similar like vibe, like the way he's
Yeah.
just got that like real intense stare.
Yeah.
Smolder.
Smolder.
Yes.
Smolder. That's exactly what it is. Duke,
Mhm.
I'd like to smolder. Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that was it. Just very fast. I thought it'd be fun.
No, I
Okay,
liked it.
so yeah, I'm like a little interlude in the middle is nice. Okay, so now let's talk just about generally about like writing things. I think people are really interested to hear in kind of people's writing process. Another question I really like to ask people because it's just really interesting is like, what's a research hole that you've fallen into, right? Like you're like, I'm just gonna go check, and then hours of your life has disappeared, and everything there is to know about whatever. So let's start with Nicola. A research hole you've fallen into?
I fall into research holes every single day because I am a terrible, terrible history geek, and I will be one of those people at parties that will start telling others about historical facts, whether they want to know them or not. But a special, I guess, topic that I'm really interested in is like etymology of words and sex slang especially. So I can tell you like all the, the year origin of like all the best words when it comes to sex slang. So
Which many historical readers apparently don't think those words existed, except for like in the past 5 years. So I know you all hear about this all the time as
All the
historical authors,
time.
especially.
Yep.
Yeah.
all the time. It's quite weird how many times, you know, you'll get it in reviews saying, you know, oh, you know, the story, there was all these modern words and that, you know, they're terrible. And it's like, you know, fuck has been in use since, you know, 1500, and, you know, cunt has been in use since the year 1230. So to call it a modern word, it's like, well, yeah, you know, if you're like Richard the Lionheart or something, sure, it would be modern. But, you know, other than that, it's like, sorry, love, it's just not.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Joanna, a research hole you've fallen into.
Yeah, I mean, that it happens very often. Matter of fact, today was off on a tangent I didn't need to be on, and I had to rein myself back in. For my story in Duke, I'd like to F, I spent a lot of time researching Victorian photography.
Yeah.
I tried to get that as right as I could. I'm not 100% right. You know, I'm not 100% sure, because you can never be 100% sure. But, and there was something that I discovered, like when I was very late in the page proof process, where I was like, oh, that's wrong. And I had to like backpedal and change it. So yeah, that was my research rabbit hole for this one.
Yeah. Adriana?
So most of my story takes place in Paris. And I've been researching Paris for this other series that I'm writing for HQN. So like just the presence of Afro-Caribbean people in Europe is something that I've been like really researching a lot. So like for this story, the heroine is she's the daughter of a British diplomat who had been in the Caribbean for like 20 years, and he married a Dominican woman there and brought his family when he retired. So I went into this like rabbit hole of like finding Foreign Office officers who were like in the Caribbean between like 1822 and like 1878. And so, because I was like trying to like make a timeline where I could find like different groups of people that had been like traveling between the Caribbean and Europe during that time, just because I thought it could be useful for the other series. So that was like a pretty big one. And then the other one was like contraception, because I wanted to have contraception in the story, just how I use it in my contemporaries. So that was fun.
That's cool. That's interesting. Ava, what about you? And it doesn't have to be for this book. It could just be in general, something lately too.
Well, I mean, because I have a hero in the Union of the Rakes who's a veteran, I wanted to make sure that to find a military unit that he would be a part of that was from Scotland, and where they were posted and what action they saw, so that I could generally have a pretty good frame of references to knowing like where would he be, where in Portugal would have been closest to a thing that I needed. Like I needed to find a Roman ruin in Portugal that he would have seen at some point. So I had to kind of like those are the sorts of things that I'm like, well, bye everybody, I'm just researching forever now. Like then I like in the Duke, I'd like to F. I wanted the hero to have this symbolic farthing that his father had given him, and I'm like, well, what can you actually buy in 1817 with a farthing? And it took a lot of work, and it's like those things I don't know, like when you're writing historical, it could be just the tiny little throwaway line, and it takes you half an hour to make sure that you get it accurate. And then I'm like, why didn't I just find a way around this? But I find that like by including these details, it sort of enriches and deepens the reader's experience rather than just sort of being vague about it. Because Nika Rosso, who I'm married to, is always like, I want specifics, be specific. That's where the fun is. And so it's like, okay, let's get to it. Let's put these specifics in here. Yeah. So when I get those tiny little lines, I'm like, okay, here we go. And then down I go.
Right. Sierra, what about you? And I know you don't write tons of historicals, but I think even for contemporary, there's a lot of research that people probably do.
Yeah, I mean, I read a book that mentioned human sacrifice back in like 2016, and then I fell into a 2-year rabbit hole about human sacrifice and wrote the Thorn Chapel Quartet. So I think that the lure of a rabbit hole is that you never know when you're going to find that one like magic bean that's going to like sprout something crucial. But what I love about historical is that I have my favorite rabbit holes, which are like dresses and fashion. And I actually found, if there's any writers in here, I like live and die by these 2 books now.
I have this book. I have both of them.
Called How to Read a Dress. Yes. And then they just came out with How to Read a Suit. And so it's about like the 1500s through like the 1950s. And it goes decade by decade. Fashion, and gets really kind of granular about not just like fabric types, but like what kind of influences were changing fashion at the time. So of course, in, you know, the Duke I'd Like to F story, it's like, you know, 1 or 2 times, you know, it's mentioned, fashion details are mentioned. Usually it's just like her dress was blue and then it moves on. But I know precisely which blue dress she's wearing.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Okay, we have a question from one of the Facebook people, from Diane. How has your writing routine shifted during the pandemic? I feel like Nicola's like, we don't really have it here because we have a functioning government, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Why don't you go ahead and go first if there is a difference for you?
Well, we had a full hard lockdown back in February, March. And then, you know, we kind of got rid of community COVID. And then we had a little flare up again, I think it was June. But since then, we've had no community transmission. So life here is pretty much completely normal. And the only cases that we have now are the New Zealanders returning home who are put into quarantine for 2 weeks before they're actually allowed into the country. So in terms of life, it's not really changed. But then I suppose for me, you know, it didn't really change my routine because I'm such a hermit at the best of times. You know, it's like, you know, you go outside and it's like, you know, everyone else has to put on sunglasses because, you know, I have my computer tan going on. But, you know, it's I just spend basically all day online because I have more friends than they don't live nearby me. So I'm online with friends and with, you know, colleagues or whatever anyway. So I suppose, yeah, in that way, it didn't really change for me at all.
Yeah. Sarah, what about you?
Well, I think I actually think that most parents probably experience this, but having kids at home really put me back into what it felt like to have little kids again. So the way that I had to work, you know, with babies and 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, it was kind of like that again, where I found myself having to, I guess I would call it like writing in the white spaces of your calendar. So like writing around their, you know, class times, writing around their virtual gymnastics, which was a thing, you know, like writing around those times in the same way that, you know, when I was a young mother, it was like, I'm going to write during nap time, or I'm going to write when they're at church preschool for 2 hours. So I had to get a little bit more flexible, I guess, rather than having this like 9-hour chunk every day that I knew was mine. So I guess that was really what changed, was having to get flexible. And I think that it came at the expense of like sleep and self-care, but it's all right. We're all still here.
Yeah. Joanna, what about you?
Yes, I mean, the same thing. I mean, I also have a day job, and because I work from home, I feel like the day job never ends. Like
It's not working from home. It's living at
all
work
the time. Exactly. Exactly. All the time. So I used to have a very segmented day where I could count on, you know, having this time slot to dedicate to writing. And I just don't have that anymore. And because of the kids, like Sierra said, I mean, it's just, it feels like a lot to juggle. And I really try to write 1,000 words every single day to keep myself on track, which, that's an hour and a half, an hour and a half. It's usually pretty manageable.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been as manageable during the pandemic.
Yeah. Ava, what about you?
Well, like I said, I kind of like my life hasn't radically altered. I think the thing that I don't get to do now is like write at coffee shops, which is something that I really liked and really enjoyed doing. I've been writing full time for a few years, like a while now. And so I need to make sure that I get out and interact with other human beings besides Nico and well, the cats aren't human beings, but don't tell me that because I don't want to know that. So I miss being able to just sort of have that opportunity to go work in a coffee shop. Although I don't write my sex scenes in coffee shops. But other than that,
I do, or I did.
well,
I was like, come read my screen.
right. Well, there's a coffee shop that I used to work at, and there was a table that I liked especially, but it happened to be right next to the children's play area. So I thought,
kind of a mood killer.
I live in a really small town, and so I was like, do I want to be run out of town?
All right, Adriana, what about you?
I've actually been pretty productive this year. I don't have to commute. So I live right outside of New York City, but I work usually when we're not in a pandemic, I work in New York City, and that's about an hour each way commute. And I'm a therapist, so I had to go into the clinic 3 times a week to see my clients. But now that we're doing therapy virtually, I have 2 more hours every day. And actually one day I have 3 more hours because one day I had to go to Brooklyn, which is 3-hour commute, like both ways, not 3 hours each way, but 3 hours in total. So I'm an early riser and I do my best work in the morning. So I usually just write from 7 a.m. to like 10:30 and get most of my writing done and then I have like my clients and stuff, and then like my kid, like that's her classroom. This red couch is her classroom, so she's back here. I have like the back part of our house is my office. So yeah, like it's been at different times I've been more productive than others, but like the changes in my schedule have actually been good for me because I don't have a commute and 3 times a week now, so I have more time.
Okay, we have a couple of really good questions from Facebook people. So here's one that is great from Jennifer, which is, is there a time period you're interested in writing, but you're scared about getting right? I don't know if this is applicable to everybody, but or something you're interested in writing, but you're scared about getting right. Maybe it can be just that general.
I would say definitely medieval. Like, I love medieval romance. I would love to write it, but I feel like because I've read a little bit less of it, I'm just innately less familiar with sort of the landscape of it. So it's like either it's way more advanced than I think it is, like they had clocks by like the 1300s and stuff, or it's like way further than I think it is. So I feel like I'm always getting it wrong. So I would definitely have to bone up a little bit before I, boned up. So
well done. All right.
The other thing about medieval is that I feel like every time I go to write and check a word to see, was that a word in use by the Gilded Age? It's like I just make it by the skin of my teeth. It's like, it came in 1892, and I'm like sold. And then, if I go back to the which I also love medievals and would love to write medievals, but I feel like that is a very steep learning curve for my brain.
It is, but can't we, when we go that far back, can we just accept that, unless we're writing it in Chaucer's Middle English, that, there's going to be some anachronisms,
Nicola, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Nicola's like, no.
Nicola's like, no. Yeah. Well, you've written some medievals, so I mean, but
You're
is that
making me twitch? You're making
You
me twitch.
you could tell that Nicola was probably their check on the historical accuracy. I can read it already. Anybody else? Something you're either a time period or something you're interested in writing but scared you'll get wrong, or
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would care I get wrong, but it's like my big, if I write historical, like I'm writing historical, like in all the places where like you just don't see around people. So like today I was like Vikings, trade routes, Africa. I'm gonna make that happen. So I was like looking at like, trade routes to see how far the Vikings came down the coast of like the Iberian Peninsula and North Africa, and seeing like just maybe there was like a berserker in like
why not?
the area where like Senegal is in like the year 800. So that's like for me like the challenge, it would be to place like brown bodies in spaces where I might be interested in writing a story, like for example, like in some like kind of Nordic situation.
Sure. You just need your new pen name for that one. All right. Ava or Nicola. I mean, and it's okay to pass if there's not something, but something you'd be interested in writing, but you're scared about getting it right.
I'm Jewish and I have never really written. I've had a character who was half Jewish, or like maybe like a quarter or something like that, and I would really, really like to know, and my knowledge about the history of Judaism is really, really kind of appallingly poor, and I want to know more. And so I've started collecting books about Jews in 18th century and Regency England, so that I can sort of combine the knowledge that I already possess, which is kind of ridiculous because it's not in my culture in any way, and then actually incorporate narratives about people like me, particularly Jewish women, because I don't see a lot of romance, especially historical romance, that features Jewish women. And then I know Rose Lerner and Felicia Grossman, they do that, and I it's like, this is who I am, and it's like, why have I been spending all my time invested in this narrative? What about, so I would love to explore that and kind of get deeper into it. In terms of just eras, I love the Georgian period, and I would love to write more Georgian, but I'm not scared about getting it wrong. I'm scared about finding readers.
That's so interesting to me, because I know Joanna said once, like someone's like, oh, I'll go back to Regency and I'll read you. And I'm fascinated by it, because I mean, it's fascinating to me that people have such strong opinions, because I will follow authors, but not really worry much about time periods, but takes all kinds. Nicola, do you have any interest in answering this question? Something you're interested in writing, but haven't for whatever reason?
I think in terms of the other ladies, I'm so in awe of them writing contemporary, and I know that sounds probably quite odd, but I feel like that I don't know anything about, like dating or love or finding love or that kind of thing in like nowadays. So I'm just like, when they write, these books of like, contemporary people, in their 20s or 30s or whatever age, like falling in love, I'm just like, it's almost like I'm so out of that that loop now that I wouldn't even know how people meet other people nowadays. And so I suppose like the contemporary thing, that just frightens me far too much in terms of
It's interesting, because I mean, it's not about me, but I was reading a book where like a young woman like name checked like Meg Ryan and like Mary Tyler Moore, and I was like, come the fuck on, no you didn't. like right, like no. And so I mean, I do think that there's, when you're talking about people who are that much younger, I feel like sometimes authors really give away their own age and don't really think about Mary Tyler Moore, right? It's
Well,
like,
Weren't we having this discussion online about like you can kind of tell the age of the author by what the clothing that they're wearing?
Yes.
Wearing a twin set. You're like, come on.
No, right.
28-year-olds don't wear twin sets.
Yeah, no. I mean, so I do think, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Okay, this is a really fun question, which is, has anyone had a strange impulse buy during the pandemic?
I bought bookbinding supplies.
Oh, that's pretty strange, yeah. You binding your own books at home?
I make them and then I burn them.
Oh.
No, I
That's
don't.
cathartic.
No,
I was like,
okay. I took like an online class, so because I was like, oh, I don't know, the hell, I'm not going anywhere. So I took a bookbinding class, and so like journal making, and actually,
that's so fun though.
This is the journal I made, but
wow.
So I have like these like bookbinding supplies that like I've used once and I need to use them again.
Well, I feel like you could give them for Hanukkah presents. So, I mean, I know now the time is tight, but you know.
It is. Well, maybe not now, but maybe I'll for like, I don't know, a Purim gift. It's like, I don't know, here's a journal.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anybody else a strange or unusual impulse buy this year?
I almost bought land in New Mexico, but we didn't. We came very close to buying some land outside of Santa Fe, but my husband was able to talk me off of that ledge.
Land is pretty intense.
We still have like another 6 months to go. So ask me in 6 months if I own land in New Mexico.
Funny. All right. Anybody else? It's okay.
Yes, I impulse buy for myself as a rule. And so that did not change in 2020. I was like, I need this new vibrating toy. I need this new velour jumpsuit fuzzy thing. I need this like bicycle that goes under my desk and I pedal while I type that I'm going to use for one day and then never use again. So that didn't change.
I impulse bought at Whole Foods last week. It was like an advent calendar, but like with like beauty things. And I was like, this seems nice. I was like, it's like scrubs and eye masks. And I just was like, I deserve this box of random shit I'm probably never going to use, but you know, kind of the same thing.
That's kind of how I felt about buying new clothes this year and shoes. I'm like, where the fuck am I going?
Yeah.
Like, and not even just tops. I like bought like skirts and pants. I'm like, nobody sees this.
Yeah. I have a lot of sweatpants now. Yeah.
It's
anybody
survival.
else? Yeah, exactly. Something else? Anybody? All right. You're not impulse buyers. That's okay. We're not going to force you. Okay. A question I really like to ask as we like wrap up, which is, what is something you have been reading or writing or watching? I guess not writing, because that's the stuff, like something that you'd recommend to people that has, you know, you've been doing that has been really great that you think other people would enjoy.
I just read LaQuette's book Jackson, and it's amazing. So it's coming out next year. So we were talking about it earlier, and pick that book up.
There you go. It's early January, I think.
Is that right?
I think so. I think
February.
End of February.
Oh, okay. All right. I lied. Time has no meaning. It's fine.
Anyway, it'll be a nice thing on your.
Oh yeah, it just magically appears. It's amazing. Anybody watching anything?
Yes, I've been watching Dash and Lily, and it's delightful.
What is it?
Dash and Lily. It's like a young adult.
Okay.
It's like two teens, kind of like series, and it's set in New York City. So it's making me very nostalgic for all things New York. And it's basically like this girl who leaves like a book of clues at the Strand bookstore, and like the person who finds it has to like do all these different, it's like a scavenger hunt thing, and so they leave messages for each other in the book, and it's adorable. I think it's like 8 episodes. It's really, really cute, and it's like
So
all set during Christmas time.
Nice. Anybody else? Anything you're watching or anything you've read?
So during the pandemic, I am not much of like a graphic novel reader or anything
Mhm.
like that, but I downloaded this app called Webtoon, which is like
Oh,
a
yeah.
free app, and there's so many good tunes on there, but the one that I really love is called Lore Olympus. And if you're someone who's having trouble sleeping, if you have anxiety, like basically if you're having trouble sort of focusing in like how you would read a book, like I need to focus for like 15 minutes at a time. Like if your brain is only like, I can do 3 minutes and then I'm like squirrel.
Mhm.
I really love Webtoon because the format of it is like a scrolling format. Like it's actually meant to be scrolled through visually.
Mhm.
And it's a really great like soothing activity because you're still reading a really great story and looking at beautiful pictures, but it's really good for like an anxious scattered brain.
Mm.
And it's free. It's completely free.
There
So
you go. Awesome. Nicola, something you've been watching or reading?
Well, I've been on deadlines, so I haven't been
Yeah.
watching much. But the last series that I binge watched was the latest season of The Crown,
Mm-hmm.
and it was wonderfully acted. Except I've never wanted to punch so many people in the face. I think watching a show before. So yeah, it's like really amazing acting. But when you think of, I mean, I know that, of course, that some of the things are exaggerated or, you know,
Sure.
made up in terms of, the creative aspect of the story, but a lot of them are based on fact, and you just think, holy fuck,
Yeah. I'm like halfway through. I think I've watched 4 or 5 episodes and definitely have been like, whoa, man. All right, Joanna, we're going to wrap up with you. Something you've read or watched that you recommend.
Well, like most of, I think, the world, I watched The Queen's Gambit
Mm.
on Netflix, which was, I really liked it. I thought that was really well done. I could do probably with a little less focus on her. I don't know. Has everybody seen it? No one's seen it?
I have not. I've been told I will like it and I believe it, but I'm a terrible watcher.
Yeah.
It takes me a really long time to get to things.
Yeah, it's really good. It's female chess player,
Yeah.
who's has a lot of substance abuse
Mm.
issues. But that was really good. And then I actually started going back and rewatching the Great British Baking Show from like the beginning, which I mean, like, bring back Mel and Sue. I mean, they were like the best hosts of that show. Mel, Sue, Mary Berry, and Paul Hollywood. And it just like watching those 4 reminds you like how amazing those early episodes were and how much the new ones are good, but not as great. So anyway, so I've been watching like from the very beginning, and that's been very calming.
Yeah. On my to-do list, because my to-do list is big, but there's like my fake to-do list and then my real to-do list. My brother says Normal People was amazing and that I should watch it. And he's like, it's kind of like a romance. And I was like, all right, then. Do you know how to sell it to me? But also, I didn't realize there's a Selena show on Netflix. And I moved to Houston in 1995. Is it not good? And Selena was like, and I just loved her. So it was like right after she died. So I'm kind of like, oh, Selena. No.
Watch it because we need the stream, so they'll do more Latin people shows.
Sure, great.
It's not the best. Like I
Well,
feel
yeah.
like a whole conversation on like the Latinx community.
Oh, I'm sure it is. But yeah, like just that for So I'm.
But
All right,
yeah,
well,
she's amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like I moved to Texas and like my kids were actively in mourning for this woman and I didn't know who she was.
Yeah. When
Right?
did you-
Is
I'm-
it
it's
scripted or is it a
1995.
documentary?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
it's
it-
a series.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I expect next year you will be doing, I don't know, The Prince I'd Like to Poke. Kidding.
what
I'm
did
kidding.
we say? Someone
That's a terrible
said,
title.
is it like Marquess, I'd like to ask.
Mark-
Milf?
The Marquess. The MILF is next.
Okay, see, there you go. It's a series. Everybody wants it. Have a great night, everybody. And
thank you, Jen.
I will
Thank
see
you,
you all
Jen.
in January.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us here
All right.
tonight.
Bye.
Bye.